Good morning. Welcome to the August 17th Environmental Resource Committee meeting. We could stand and pledge allegiance.
Not showing any disrespect to the flag, I just okay if I said.
We understand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rich, I didn't know you were a veteran.
You've asked me that a few times.
Okay, I forgot. Well, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. 23 years. Happy.
Oh, that's right. It's all coming back to me.
The first order of business is the draft agenda. Are there any amendments we need to make? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have one member of the public here. Do you wish to make any comments now? Okay. We have meeting minutes from May 18th, June 15th, and July 20th to amend or approve. What's the pleasure of the committee?
I did not notice any corrections.
I didn't either.
The motion.
Yes, sir.
I just have one note that Roger Shue's last name is spelled S-H-E-W as opposed to S-H-O-E as it is in the minutes. That's just a note.
All right, we'll have to put that in there. Is there anything else? Do I have a motion to for approval of? I assume we can approve them all together.
Sure.
So
Do it anyway.
yeah. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve May, June, and July's meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I second that with the correction noted for spelling.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have with us today Pete Larkin. Are you chairman of the Sunset Vision now?
No.
Okay. Board member of Sunset Vision, a former member of the Environmental Resource Committee. And Pete, we invited you to come talk to us today about how the ERC might collaborate with Sunset Vision. When we did the, excuse me, when we did the Earth Day, Arbor Day event, there were several people that we talked to that said they would like to volunteer to work on activities the ERC was promoting. And we had talked about creating a group of volunteers that would work with us, but we are an advisory board to the town council. We are not an activist group, and we thought that coming up with some working arrangement with Sunset Vision might be the more appropriate way to do this. You've got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas of town government and group activities. So we thought it'd be good to talk about it with you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, John, for the opportunity and to speak before you, and to because people watch this on YouTube, to get word out about not only yourselves but about Sunset Vision. To start off with, I didn't want to do it during public comments, but I want to congratulate the ERC. You folks have done an awful lot very quickly, and your structure seems solid. Your expansion to the 7-member board, I think it's good foresight to look ahead to keep committee people working without violating open meeting rules. And you should be proud of what you've done. I've served as chair of the ERC before, and you guys have come a long way since I sat in that seat.
Pete, we appreciate your comments. This has been a very, if I may brag on us, been a very active, forward-thinking board. So, thank you.
Okay. Well, even you reaching out to groups like Sunset
Sure,
Vision
sure.
for collaboration is it's a good way to get synergy,
Sure.
and that's really important in our town. We're a small town, but we're a big town. We're
Yeah.
pretty sophisticated, but we're sometimes not so sophisticated. And the work you've done for Arbor Day, Earth Day, that was you launched it, and about a month later had it, and it was a great success.
Those
So,
two over there were the spearheads.
Rich and
Thank you,
Steve,
Rich and
with
Steve.
a
They-
lot of support
Okay.
from John.
They kicked the ball. Well, those three actually.
Well,
Yeah.
it gave us a good role model for the subcommittees.
Yeah, it's good.
well, enough enhancing your egos. Again, thank you for considering Sunset Vision and in your thought process. To kind of give you some background on Sunset Vision, it started back in 2014. Our mayor at the time, Ron Watts, and his wife, Adrian, they travel quite a bit and visit a lot of other locales similar to us in size and nature and personality. And Ron came back and said to half a dozen of us, do you think we could start something that would be a volunteer group that isn't political or governmental structured, but that can work on projects, amenities, fundraising to kind of help the town? Ron, as being mayor at the time, could see that there were certain things that the town really needed, or it would benefit the town and its citizens and visitors. But because of certain political positions taken by certain people, he saw that it really wasn't a government project. It wasn't something that town council could really initiate, or town staff. That if citizens got together and did it, it would get its own momentum, and then have the backing of other citizens, and then get the cooperation of the town. But anyway, in 2015, a year later, we incorporated as a C301C, I think it's C 501c3 nonprofit organization, which allowed people to donate money to us and be able to deduct that. So we were proud to kind of make that step through incorporation. And I'll read you our mission statement. That may give you some insight as to what we thought then, and really it's stayed true right through now. We're a diversified group of citizens dedicated to providing stewardship, inspiration, innovation, collaboration, and resources so Sunset Beach continues to be the ideal community in which to work, play, and live. As you can see, we're really not social activists. We're not government activists. We just want to try to identify things that would make life, quality of life, better here in Sunset Beach, and to kind of give you some ideas or some thoughts as to what we've done. A lot of them have been environmentally focused. A lot of them totally not environmentally focused. But things like putting in the binoculars at the bird watch down on Shoreline Drive West to see birds. We're at the birding trail, and I've heard you folks sell that point that we're on the birding trail. John and I certainly have, as we're working with the RCCP program and for our grant applications and things like that. We work very closely with other nonprofits here in town, like the Committee to Honor American Veterans, the Old Bridge Historical Society, the Turtle Watch, Pausability, groups that are very close to working here in Sunset Beach specifically to help our citizens in various programs. And what we do is when they have a benefit or an event, we volunteer to help them with either parking or cooking hot dogs or selling tickets or putting posters out. So we're behind the scenes, but that synergy really does help. They, in fact, help us. We have an art show coming up next week, and they're helping us significantly on just getting the word out and supporting us. So there is some synergy there. We don't work closely with town council, although town council has two people that are on our list of people that support Sunset Vision. But we've donated about $50,000 worth of items to the town, and we turn them over to the town. We assist in the installation of them. We do fundraisers to be able to pay for them, and then we turn them over, and then the town puts them on their town insurance policy for long-term maintenance or protection and the like. And then we work with the town to help maintain them, to do maintenance on them. Like I go and do with another fellow. We clean the binoculars at the Birdwatch every month. Other environmental things that we've done that I know that you're aware of, because that's really your wheelhouse here, is the red baskets that we have at the beach for litter pickup. We have a couple of events each year where we pick up litter on the beach, all the beach access walkways. Living Shoreline. I know a lot of you were involved in the Living Shoreline, and we volunteered for that. And we also paid for and installed an informational kiosk right down by the Living Shoreline in the park, so people could walk by and see, because you can't see the Living Shoreline unless it's very low tide, to see what it's doing and how it works, and some photographs of it actually being installed in the various stages. The rain garden out here that I was involved in. I know Rich sat in the class as well, along with John, when we got certified.
Candace was there too.
Yeah, Candace, that's right, for sure, and your sister. But that was a great event, and Sunset Vision donated all the plants and mulch and stone to the town for that rain garden. And we since have donated, in fact, you'll see it out there if you look today. I just dropped it off this weekend. It's a bench that for Tom Vinces, memorializing him. He was chair of our planning board when he passed away, very unexpectedly, but he's also on the board of Sunset Vision. And we have an informational kiosk sign that has been that we paid for, and it's been delivered for town Department of Public Works to install, which is a pictorial of what a rain garden does, how it functions. And then it's for younger kids to kind of look at, and we have 6 photographs of plants that are actually in there. And we say to the kids in script, see if you can find these in the rain garden. And then they're reading as to how it works, how we have the downspouts all going to it. But the ERC was obviously very instrumental in promoting that. So we appreciated that. But as I said, we are not, Sunset Vision is not a political or a social activist group. So we would want to be very careful we would love to have to work with the ERC. We think your mission is spot on for benefiting our citizens and our visitors. The more we can protect our environment here, the more attractive it's going to be for visitors to come to Sunset Beach. And obviously you're aware of how much financial support the town gets through accommodations taxes, sales taxes, for promotion of other amenities within our town, and supporting fire and police, Department of Public Works. So I don't have any specific ideas as to how we can work with you, but we would be excited about doing so.
Well, I think we should start out by commending Sunset Vision for all the value they've added to Sunset Beach. Your
Thank you.
fingerprints are all over town.
Thank you.
And they're all very well done. It's an organization that's very highly respected in town. And our thought, and I'll start off and let other people speak too, but our thought was, if we come up with an idea that we want to propose to town council to do something, like we want to put in a garden in the park, or we want to do something at Majestic Oaks Park when it gets built out. We go in and say, we recommend that the town do this, and that we've talked to Sunset Vision and we've worked out a way to make this happen. Will the council approve it? And if they approve it, then that project can move forward without having to add to the workload of the Public Works Department. They'll be involved, I'm sure. They don't just walk away from things at all, but getting volunteers involved to help out in advance would make it much more attractive to being approved by town council.
Well, getting suggestions, John, for new amenities or new activities that's really what we need. Even at our art show coming up next week, as we speak to people going around the art show, we're really saying to them, we take the money from the art show and we use it for amenities, but we need ideas. And I'm sure you folks in the role that you play within the town can come up with some good ideas. What we always do is we sit down with our town administrator when we have ideas, and sometimes the town administrator will call us up and say, hey, let's have a meeting. I've got an idea on something that you may want to look at from the Sunset Vision standpoint. And I'm sure the town looks at it. I'm sure town council would look at it. A citizen-initiated project is a lot easier to, I'm trying to be careful with my words here, a lot easier to receive additional public support if it doesn't come from town council. So if it's citizen initiated, it is something that it's easier to sell because it has initial support right away. And people are looking at it saying, hold it, we're not paying for this. It's not coming out of our ad valorem taxes. It's something that's coming from donations.
Right.
So,
Mr. Chairman, just a couple comments. Pete, you mentioned a word that I'm really big on is collaboration. There's no sense in two trains running down parallel tracks. There's an opportunity for us to merge or combine efforts in many ways. I think that's so good. One thing that comes to my mind, I think you briefly mentioned it, was litter. Now, we don't have a major problem in town with all the streets, but all the major roads, but I do see a good amount of litter on 904 or Seaside Road. I'm not sure how many litter pickup efforts there are in town. May not be any organized or adopt. I don't know if they adopt the highways in town.
There is. In fact, to put a comma there, Don, Sunset Vision has on one occasion done 904 from the Methodist Church all the way down to the intersection on both sides.
Good.
One of the problems that you run into with that highway program is safety.
Oh yeah.
Particularly that road.
Yeah.
It is so difficult to be out there.
There's no shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And the summer months, you've got snakes and everything else out there too. But well, good. That.
Well, thanks. I'm never volunteering for that project.
But that's one of my things is litter.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start me on litter. But that's
well,
good.
the beach walkways we find as very attractive spots for Sunset Vision to volunteer, because the walkways where that's a public access, that is all private property. The people that live on Main Street that face the ocean or that live on the south side of Main Street, they own that property all the way down to the high water mark.
Right.
All of those dunes belong to those people.
Right.
However, they're not allowed to enter them. It is private property, but the owners can't even enter it. We go out under the guise of because as people walk down and they set a styrofoam cup on the hand railing while they're tying their shoe and it blows into the dunes, it sits there and it sits there and it sits there.
Yeah.
And people love to throw diapers in there, dog poop bags. We go in and clean that twice a year.
Yeah.
But so that's something that we are really proud of.
Yeah. Well, good. I have done some litter pickups, and it's interesting what people will throw out of a vehicle: food, money, beer, shoes.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I guess going back to kind of the original things. Sometimes, like when we were at Earth Day, Arbor Day, as John mentioned, people will come up and say, "Hey, are you guys doing anything about blah blah blah?" And if you are, I'd love to volunteer and help out.
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a way to manage volunteers. We don't have any organization to do that. But if we could gather names of people who are interested in certain things, and they don't mind us keeping sort of a list, they might be projects that we'd like to talk with you guys about, like, hey, can we partner with you?
Sure.
This is an area people are interested in working on. We see a benefit to it, and pass the names along, and then do whatever we can to support it. But I don't think we're set up to manage
No, we're
very
not.
well.
Well, and there's some synergy there too, because Sunset Vision really relies upon donors and donations for our events. And we hold events and charge money for them, but
Right.
the support of people knowing that they're giving it to a nonprofit. And the more we volunteer to do things within our town, the more credibility Sunset Vision gets, and the more more likely some people, when they at the end of the year, when they're trying to figure out who to give money to, and that's happened several times, where somebody will write us a check on December 20th for $1,000, and that's because they want to. They're preparing their tax situation for the end of the year. But
I have two questions, at least two questions. So if we have a list of volunteers, Sunset Vision looking for any more members? Or are
always.
That's, oh, yes.
In fact, we have two. I'll call it two tiers of members. We have an action committee, and there's about 18 people on that.
Wow.
We have a board of 3, board of directors, and then we have about 18 people, and we meet once a month in the room next door to you. We meet on the second Tuesday of each month. And if somebody expresses interest in Sunset Vision, it depends on their degree of interest. We may invite them to that meeting. More often, we'll invite them to go to a litter pickup or something else, so they can kind of see the way we're structured. Because what we don't need is 10 more people in that room, because it's hard enough to herd cats as it is, because we're all volunteers. But that's typically the way we do it. Now, we have another tier, which is called Visionaries, Sunset Visionaries. And what they are is on our mailing list. It's people that have gone to our art shows and expressed an interest in being on our mailing list. And then we send them out publications or periodic notices as to things we're doing, so that they can join up if they so choose. The beach access markers at each walkway on the beach, it's a white concrete pole. Once a year, we go out and we clean them. We then go back the next day and we paint them white, and we go back the next day and we paint beach access in red on them with a stencil. So it's things like that we advertise to people and say, hey, we're going to paint beach access markers. And if you want to come, we're going to meet at the gazebo at 9:00, that kind of thing.
The second was on Don's suggestion, and this has come up before, about litter. And I mentioned that some friends and neighbors, ERC will be at the Sunset at Sunset. And a highly respected friend of mine said they were there last year, volunteers quite often, there last year, and there were not enough litter, or not enough recycling boxes.
Okay.
So I don't know, and I don't know if I'm sure you've seen the recycling, the fold down boxes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So the town doesn't have to maintain, or the Sunset at Sunset doesn't have to maintain a dozen more containers, but there's boxes.
Sure.
Would that be a project that Sunset Vision would pay for or donate money for?
Possibly.
Okay.
There's a number of programs very parallel to that we're involved in. You may notice that at each beach walkway access on the beach, there's a 4x4 post that's about waist high, and a life ring is on each one of those. The fire department is put there. On the dune side of that, we have our little canister that is a butt canister, and we empty them once a month, and where people aren't going to be littering on the beach, they're going to be putting their lit cigarette inside there, and then it goes down and it smothers. So that and recycling are obviously, in fact, we recycle those butts. We send them by FedEx free to us to Wilmington, and they incinerate them. So they dispose of them properly. They're not just throwing them into a landfill somewhere.
Right, yeah, good.
So you have our attention when it comes to recycling, and particularly when there's an environmental slant to it.
Okay.
Now, the first place I'd go is I'd go to Karen Joseph, who runs Sunset at Sunset, and I'd say, don't you feel bad that they're, wouldn't you really like to see?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to Karen when we invited her for our Earth Day celebration.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Anyone else have any questions or?
No, I think it would be good. I mean, because you can sit here and identify all these different things we could do, but to say what we think are the top 5 or 10 issues that we work on together.
Mhm.
And
Well, there's one that John, and hold that, and I'll come right back to you, Steve. John and I think other folks were on the board at the time. This goes back a little ways when the county and the ERC, they were working together on recycling and some informational stickers so that people would better understand what you can recycle and what you shouldn't recycle. And to come up with some sort of a sticker that you could put on the recycling can. And I, sitting here in the meeting, I said to the county representative, if you can get the stickers, I can see if Sunset Vision would be the manpower to go out and put these stickers on each recycle can on the beach, and at least on the beach. But the board, I'm one vote. The board said, hold it. Do we really want to walk around and go under people's houses and find their recycling can and put a sticker on it? Or how do we know that people really want a sticker on their recycling can? So the vote was not unanimous to go into that program. There's a number of things that come out that for one reason or another, the board is not unanimous on, so we don't move forward on it.
So there is another answer to that, right? Is to hand out those stickers during Earth Day.
Yeah. We've got
part of the recycling.
We've got thousands of
Thousands.
Yes.
I've got about 8,
magnetic stickers.
It's a magnetic one. I've got one in my garage right above my recycle can.
And we have a lot of those for upcoming events. We're ready for.
And I don't read it, but my wife does. She goes in and pulls the bubble wrap out, and then she comes in and shakes her finger at me.
Good.
I think there's a lot of issues too that are, and I brought this up before, related to growth and traffic. And I know that we may not have the money or the depth to deal with that, but I lived in Florida before, and they turned it into you couldn't ride your bike anywhere. You can't go anywhere outside
Because of
your
traffic.
Traffic's incredible. So I noticed, they're building all these homes, both on Georgetown Road up 904, 179, and what's it going to be like in 3 years? And
Thousands.
and there's no plan for pedestrian traffic that I'm aware of. And it's like either you take your car, there's a little bike lane on the main road, but I don't see the
Even
whole
Georgetown
area.
Road has a very
The
small
whole
bike
area
lane.
has
It's
no
not-
plan between like Calabash, Ocean Isle, and Sunset
Mhm.
for pedestrian traffic or bikes or golf carts or whatever. It's all vehicles.
And that could be part of the climate action
And I
Well,
just
it's
program later.
we observe it. We all agree with you. It's beyond the scope of the ERC to do that. It's
Well,
even
I'm chair of the planning board.
You're
and we have a
chairman of the
meeting.
planning
We
board,
have a
then.
meeting tomorrow.
Well,
and it's extremely frustrating.
my only
because-
point though is like, I see people dump litter everywhere. There's like nowhere to, I'm just saying that to me, I'm not saying we should talk about that issue. It's just that I see it as irrelevant. The growth here is crazy right now. And I think it's going to continue. It might slow down a little bit because of the economy or whatever, but I just think I don't see anything being done to address that.
How do we move forward? I appreciate that Sunset Vision might be willing to collaborate with us on projects where we have a mutual interest. How do we proceed?
I think one thing to piggyback on what you just said, Candace, is have someone from this committee appear before your board to do what you're doing here, to maybe see if your board's saying, maybe we can work on that together.
You mean when we have an idea of what
Yeah,
we want to
yeah.
do?
Yeah, presenting an idea on a project specific basis is really the best bet, especially to get started, because there may be some that for one reason or other we don't want to do,
Sure.
Right.
and don't feel it's appropriate
Yeah.
for the overall health of Sunset Vision.
Sure.
but there may be others that we say, boy, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And
One possibility would be to appoint the liaison on the ERC to participate with Sunset Vision. Is that
but you certainly would be welcome to, or a designee, welcome to sit in our meeting. We would just ask that you understand your role as a not a board member, but certainly for us to get to know, for the rest of the Sunset Vision to get to know the ERC better is healthy.
I think that's an excellent idea. That liaison could come back to this committee and say, hey, Sunset Vision did so-and-so, da-da-da-da, what do you think about this? And then take it back to them and say, hey, the ERC loves that idea. Could we work together? Now, that's just a thought, you know.
yeah?
Our next meeting will be the second Tuesday in September. However, and that would be fine for someone to attend. However, with our art show being next week, what that meeting is going to consist of is a deprogramming of what was good and what went wrong on the art show. And that's important to do it as you guys did after Earth Day, Arbor Day, and which is extremely healthy.
Sure.
You learn from your experiences, and you don't want to wait very long before you have that reality check. So that's really what our next meeting in September will be focused on. Just as a point, but I would your suggestion is it would be welcome.
Are there any other ideas? Any other suggestions?
Well, again, I appreciate you being here, Pete.
I do have one. still.
One more.
So our green committee's been has been discussing tree plantings. But I'll cut through all of that. To do the tree plantings, you would need someone to maintain the trees for the first year, which would mean either Public Works if we did them at the park, which we don't want to burden them anymore. But the fire department, I live right there at that entrance, has some open land, and they have full-time volunteers and staff there. If we were to put this is off the top of my head, if we were to put a rain garden or a tree planting, 3 or 5 trees there, is that something the fire department would be interested in? Or maybe that's something we could discuss as a committee.
That's beyond my pay grade.
Okay. That's not
That's
I'm
probably
a
still
paid
Public
firefighter,
Works.
but that would be something that really should come through Lisa Anglin first, because
Okay.
what she'd be doing is obligating town staff to take on other duties. Up until 6 months ago, the fire department took care of our tree pruning and grass and fertilizing of the property at both Station 1 and 2. Town council thought it was better use of fire department staff energies to subcontract it to the group we already had that was taking care of our roundabout and the town hall and other places.
Right.
So we've stopped doing that. But as far as I'm sure that, just like we were able to gain momentum to have the rain garden put out here, rain gardens would, if properly designed, would be great on all of our municipal buildings. The area underneath the bridge or adjacent to the bridge, that's owned by the DOT. That's not owned by the town.
Okay.
So that is sensitive, somewhat sensitive area. However, the DOT has allowed the town some usage of it. For example, parking for Sunset at Sunset, as long as it's manned, because they think there's security of the bridge. So they want somebody at that gate and somebody else hand parking cars or telling people where to go. So that area is DOT owned.
Okay. And there's something maybe we can discuss, because I think we are looking for places to plant either a rain garden, something, a green project.
Well, we did a job, the town did a job that an Eagle Scout had set up right by the entrance to the fishing pier,
Right.
near the boat ramp. And there's a little plaque there that talks about what that was all about. But that was probably, that's been 8 or 9 years ago now. It's been a while. But similar projects like that, because that is town property. And So that's,
Right at the boat ramp area is down
Well,
around it, or
no, the boat
Okay.
ramp parking itself is, and the boat ramp itself is owned by Wildlife and Fisheries.
right?
And however, Sunset at Sunset has gotten approval to close that for Sunset at Sunset, with a special dispensation. But the pier, I think the fishing pier itself, I think is owned by the town,
Okay,
and the
that's that
little
side of
entrance
it.
to
That
it.
side.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Or anything else from people? So our minds were running in parallel. I was wondering what our next step was, and
Come up with an idea and
We'll,
throw it at us. And
we'll talk about having someone from the committee attend your meetings and build a working relationship together.
Okay. There's certain things that I know that you're interested in as the ERC that might be outside of our wheelhouse. And I'll give an example. Let's say that you were going to go around to all the restaurants in town and say, you shouldn't be providing plastic straws. You should be providing paper straws. What we wouldn't want to do as Sunset Vision is kind of get in people's faces like that, like kind of accusatorially that they're doing something wrong and that we're here to advise them how they can do it right. Those would be kinds of things that would not be in our best interests when we're going to that same business owner to use their restaurant for a nonprofit event or something like that. So I'm throwing that out. There may be something that it might not be obvious to you that it could create some difficulties for us, but we certainly we would meet, we would discuss it, and we'd get right back to you and say
Good.
yes or no.
Well, if there's nothing else, thank you for coming today.
I'm going to stick around for a little bit, but
You're very welcome
Okay.
to stay for the whole
That-
meeting.
that way I won't have to watch it on YouTube tonight.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Pete, where are you from originally?
Boston, Pittsburgh, Auburn, Washington, D.C.
Just
Wow.
curious. I've tried to
You're
pick your
working your
accent.
way south. You're going to end up in Florida, Key West.
So you're a Patriots fan, huh? Okay. Bless your heart.
Balmer. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Balmer. I've been
That's
to
where I
Balmer.
came from.
Balmer.
All right. Chad, if you're watching the meeting today, we miss you. We hope you get better quickly, and we'll carry on the best we can without you. Next is old business. First item is the ERC subcommittee structuring. As Chad suggested at the last meeting, I've called and talked to each one of you except Candace, who was
Out of town.
out of town.
No anything.
But
Mountains
we
are
have
weird.
talked. We have
Yes.
talked.
She was
Yes.
isolated.
So
Yeah.
what I've come up with after talking to everybody and talking to Chad, I think there's the idea of subcommittees is a good one. We increased the size of the committee to 7 people, so we could have subcommittees of up to 3 people working together. As an interesting note, after reading a message you sent, Candace, about Oak Island, I went back and looked at the environmental committee that Oak Island has. And I know Pete and Don remember this, but when the ERC first got started, we looked at all the other beach communities to see who might have experience with environmental committees. And Oak Island was the only town that had such a committee. Their committee was ad hoc. It was not appointed by the town government, but they were very active in a lot of areas. And their activity came to a screeching halt when the COVID shut everything down. I talked to the chairman of the committee during the pandemic, and she said they had really stopped doing everything. And I see now that the activities in town have resumed, that they have a fully appointed environmental committee in Oak Island. And it's interestingly, it's a committee of 9 people, not 7.
We're not getting greedy, are we?
No, I'm not getting greedy. We have to walk before we run.
That's a
But
strong word. 9 people. Oh, yeah.
it was interesting because I'm sure they're trying to find ways to do things, or we're trying to find ways to do. So there's a couple of categories of subcommittees. One is event subcommittees. We had an event subcommittee for Earth Day, Arbor Day. We created a subcommittee for Sunset at Sunset. And that is an effective way of working between meetings to figure out what we want to do and bring it back to the full committee for agreement to move forward on. The other category of subcommittees are, I'll call them subject matter experts, as Steve likes to say. These are recycling. Recycling is more than just recycling. Recycling is single-use plastics ban. It's the biggest thing about recycling is education. There are limits to what the town is willing to do in terms of making mandatory recycling. But we can still educate people about recycling and how the town program is probably a better deal for them than having it in the tax base. But we have a lot of education to do in that area. The other one is climate. The town has a Resilient Coastal Communities program. The ERC has been moved into membership with the Community Action Plan group. And right now that hasn't really become a big thing for us yet, because in phase 3 we've got the project that we've been given grant money for, and that has to get going here. But I think we need to have a subcommittee to look at the climate and to think about an action plan for the town and make recommendations to council about what needs to be done. We have the priority of projects with the resilience program, but there are other things in a climate plan beyond resilience. You have the land use considerations. How do we manage the use of trees, and how do we control stormwater runoff? And we do all that in a climate friendly way. The third area of subcommittee would be what members of the committee have called the green subcommittee. Whether it's green or it's beautification, but it's also climate related, because I think stormwater probably belongs with the green activity. And while we don't manage the stormwater program for the town, we have an education function with the residents of the town for things like rain gardens and what needs to be done, what homeowners can do in their own property to control runoff and control pollution in the Calabash River and in the intercoastal waterway. So these are the ideas that I got from you all. If I've misunderstood anything, please.
So do you have 4 subcommittees? Is that what that is?
I have 3.
Events?
Oh,
recyc-
yes, events is 4. Yeah, right.
Okay, with events, we have two major events a year that we are looking at, and I think one event subcommittee could do both things, and the lessons learned from each event would then carry over into the next one. The Earth Day Arbor Days in the spring, and Sunset at Sunsets in the early fall. So Chad and I both felt like one event subcommittee could do both of those. And then we have recycling, we have climate, and we have green.
So we mentioned this before. I mentioned this, the recycling committee. I would call that the 3R committee because it's like you said, there's so much more than
Well, I think that's what John was kind of saying when he said
We have more
recycling
than-
is more than
recycling.
recycling. It's a convenient name for the subcommittee, but I think we want,
Yeah.
it's like you said, can we reduce our use of certain things and can we reuse what's
So
out
I
there?
think if we say I'm on the recycling committee, anyone else out there would think recycling, right? Just throwing stuff into a bin as opposed to reducing. And then, as kids, we were taught some of us taught the 3Rs, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Well,
But it's easier for people just to recycle, easy way out, and that's 7% or so. It's a real small percentage than it is to reduce consumption of those products.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yes,
my
it's
point.
still like, people going to the grocery store and Food Line, picking up 50 bags,
Right.
bringing them back instead of bringing their own bags each time. And
Right.
I agree, it's
Reduce.
That should be part of the education
wasting
process. And
natural resources
Yeah.
that can be reutilized.
So
Well,
that's my 3.
You bring up a good point, Rich.
Well, thank you.
You don't want the title to minimize the areas of activity, but then again, the titles can't be so long as
Right, yeah.
as you lose interest hearing
So-
about it.
So the 3Rs cover
Um,
that. I don't know.
Reduce.
I don't know.
reuse.
What do you all think?
I think that the committee name is only important in this group, and if we all understand, here's what we're working on, recycling is just a convenient shorthand. Call it what you want.
Okay.
Because I think, because if Don was willing, I think he and I would both still work on this, and that our focus should be more than just what's the recycling
Right, yeah.
landfill doing, and
On the marketing side of that, for the last 40 years, there's no guilt attached to buying plastic and recycling it. Right here, you're doing well. You're saving the earth.
I guess
As opposed to, don't buy the plastic.
Yeah.
Use your own carry bags. Use your own bottle, reusable bottles.
So when I think
it's-
about the people that talk to us, like when we did Sunset at Sunset last year, most everyone that stopped by to talk about it, they are already recycling or very interested to do it and wanting to know how. And if you talk to them about, reducing, everybody would like to not buy plastic bottles, for instance, but what's your alternative? We don't have a refill station.
But we could.
Well, those might be things to look at working with somebody like Food Line, which is in Sunset Beach, to say, could you bring in a big thing we could bring our own gallon jugs in here and refill them, or bring growlers for water.
I priced remember our football coaches, tennis coaches, they had those refillable orange barrels that I'm sure the city or the town staff probably has them back in the trucks. Some construction. Those are 20 gallons of water or something like that. I'm not sure how big they are, but they're $50 a piece.
Try bringing a
$50 a piece.
70-year-old lady picking one of them up. Doesn't work.
Okay, right, yeah.
So there's issue. I mean, there's a lot of different issues that force people to do
But
those.
there are.
But it
answers
might
to
be
those.
nice if we could present here's some alternatives. Like I think we tried it the last
Okay.
thing.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're probably
That's
going into
committee
subcommittee
discussion,
business.
committee discussion.
I think we're moving from the idea of a committee into the details of the
Right, yeah,
committee.
sorry.
I think I mean, you might want to just name it something else, but I think you should. I think the committees you laid out look fine.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I think I agree with Candace in that I think the title is meant more for our use than advertising what we're trying to get across to the community. We have to come up with our own educational programs to get that message out about reduce, reuse, and recycle. But Steve,
No, that you're doing exactly what I was going to suggest. But one point I would make is that Food Lion does have a refill station.
They do, yeah.
For water?
40 cents
front.
per gallon
Yeah.
of water.
I haven't seen that. Where
Tons
is
of
it?
Plus, you
front.
could you
It's in
can
front.
take
It's
the
a
plastic
machine.
bags back there too.
Yeah, you can definitely recycle.
is it purified or is it just city water?
They have a title on it. I don't think it's purified. It isn't distilled. It isn't
It's
sprayed.
just town water.
So
Well,
it's us. I don't know what the phrase is. That use it,
Reverse
but
osmosis?
it's filtered 3 or 4 different filters.
Boils, what they say.
It's RO.
It could be.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Well-
this gets back to something, at the risk of beating a dead horse, it's all about education,
Yeah.
making people aware of things. I had somebody tell me just the other day, well, it all goes into the landfill anyway, so why should I recycle?
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's an urban legend that will not go away, you know?
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think your proposals for the committees are good.
So, okay, can I get a motion to form 4 committees?
Make a motion. We form those 4 named committees.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
John, now that we've done that, I think you and I are up for reappointment in November. So we might be short-termers. And I am assuming I will reapply. I think my health's going to be back where I'll be somewhere close to normal. So I just throw that out there for whatever it's worth. Maybe nothing.
I don't think we should worry about tomorrow. I think we should just take care of things today.
I hear you. Just a thought.
Yeah. None of us know when our time's up.
Sure, that's a fact.
And I'm like you, Don. I would hope and expect to be reappointed at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. All right. Now that we have 4 subcommittees, we can have 2. All right. Let me say this first. In my original thoughts about subcommittees, there would be 2 people on the subcommittee, and that would allow me to work with them as as it worked out that it was necessary to do, as I've done with with both of the event subcommittees. But there's nothing that would prevent having 3 people on a subcommittee, and having the subcommittee have a spokesperson that would talk to the full ERC committee, or call me if there were issues or things they wanted help with. So can we identify which subcommittees each one of you would like to be involved with? Now, again, there's no limit to the number of subcommittees you could possibly be part of. It's just a question of how much time and energy you're willing to commit to doing this. So I know Don is very passionate about recycling and wanted to be on the recycling subcommittee.
And I think Ms. Sieben, we had talked briefly that she would be willing to participate again with me. We met down at the brew house when we had our meetings.
All right.
So, which is fine, I guess.
Is there anyone else that would want to be on the recycling subcommittee? That's fine. So you're willing to?
Yeah, we will continue.
Okay. So Candace and Don would be recycling.
But we'll remember that we're 3 R's is what our goal is, but
Yes.
we're just called recycle.
I thought you said 3 hours. I thought 3 hours.
60 hours. No, it's too long a meeting.
John, I'd be interested in the climate and the green committees.
Yeah, so am I. Here you got three.
And we have 3 people.
2 Steves on the same committee. That won't be confusing.
Steve 1 and Steve 2.
Get T-shirts made.
Steve, my other brother, Steve.
Well, the climate that's my biggest area of interest.
So I'd be fine to stay on just the green committee. And if there's ever a need for me on the climate committee, I'd be okay with that. How's that?
Well, let's talk about the event committee before we finalize things. Steve Levine and you and I were on the Earth Day Arbor Day, and Rich and I and Candace are on the Sunset at Sunset.
I can certainly continue.
My personal
I-
opinion would be we could have 3 primaries, but we're all involved in the Arbor Day, right?
Well, we're all involved in all these things.
Correct. So I
mean,
I think that Rich and myself should be on the Arbor Day thing, and maybe add another person. I mean, I don't know if he wants to be involved with it because we did it last year, and it'd be easier for us to leverage our expertise.
I was thinking just the opposite would be easier for us to
Delegate.
pass our knowledge and our information on
We could do that. It's up to you.
as
I
a
don't
foundation information.
Um,
But
some of the green initiative things may fall under that anyway to support Earth Day, Arbor Day.
right, that's a good point too. So the Green Committee would support the Earth Day, Arbor Day. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and maybe this is a point that needs to be reemphasized. Each one of these groups is a subcommittee of the ERC, and what they are doing is for the action of the full group. So everybody is really part of every subcommittee. It's just being led by individuals to get more focus on it, put more effort into it. So yeah, it's not like we can't say, well, I'm not going to have anything to do with recycling because Don and Candace are doing that.
That's right.
We all have to be interested
Yeah.
and stay abreast of what's going on in the world in that area.
Well, and I would think, John, that each subcommittee would report back periodically, whatever that means, to the full committee of what we're doing or not doing.
Yes, I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
Yeah.
Who else would want to be on the Green Committee? Rich is obviously interested in that and has already said that that's one he wants to be on. I know he's talked with Candace and Steve Hines about the Sunset at Sunset and some ideas about doing things in the park. So I guess
I said I'd be on the green and the climate,
I think
And I think Steve Hines said he would
Steve
like to
said
do.
the same.
Mine said the same thing, but
Yeah.
it does, obviously that we're going to load up the green committee.
What about Amilla? Is she going to be
Yeah.
involved?
I haven't talked to Mila at all, and so I don't know where her interests are.
I don't think she's going to be available to help with much in the immediate
She
future.
won't be
anyway,
back till October.
Possibly. Later.
Pardon? At the earliest. So we'll just have to
When she's back, we can see where she's
bring her
interested.
into things as
I
I would. Go ahead.
was going to say Candace as a master gardener.
I'm interested in the Green Initiative, but I think you've got 3 good members there, and maybe I can do part of it through the Earth Day, Arbor Day, and Sunset at Sunset.
Sure.
I think we're right. I mean, you can't do more than 3 people.
Right.
on the
Again,
committee.
I spoke up maybe too early. I don't want to keep anyone off of any of those.
You're
committees.
not keeping me off it. I mean, there's other ways that I can be involved, and I'd certainly be happy to be a resource if there's anything that I can help the Green Committee with.
Along with the rest of the ERC committee.
I will say this about the climate. Having a focus on climate activity is a big job.
Okay.
It takes a lot of time to read news stories and to stay current on things coming out of the government on the climate area. And I spend an inordinate amount of time, probably too much time every day.
Judging by our emails.
You're the expert.
Yeah. So, so what if I, again, if I get onto the climate committee and not the green committee? So I think we need scientists and master gardeners and computer guys, people
Well, okay.
on the greens.
Steve Hines, what would your priorities be?
Probably the number 1 priority is the climate committee.
Yeah.
The coastal resiliency is, that's my main interest, I think. Sea level
That
rise
lines up with your background.
lines up with my background. Right.
Which is what we have to.
Well, in particular,
use.
the bill that the president signed yesterday that included climate would be so much stuff going to come out of that. It'll take a while for somebody to get their heads around that, how it relates to us.
Money's coming. That's the
Yeah. That's a big
You feel
thing.
like money will ultimately be coming
Yeah.
to help with some of these.
Yeah, but that's a good point. There's already money here,
Yeah.
especially in our state, from
From North Carolina.
from
yeah,
what's that kid's name anyway? From CCAP.
conservation.
From Elliott?
Elliott, thank you. Thinking Elaine, Elliott.
Yeah.
So there's money. There's Keep America Beautiful money that we haven't applied for yet, and there's the BEMC money grant that we have an application for, which is not submitted until. So there's some money already.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the IRA money is coming maybe until next year at the
Oh,
earliest.
probably
Yeah.
Which
probably
is-
longer than
Yeah.
that by the time
Oh,
it gets apportioned
Right.
out.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to limit ourselves to the federal.
Well,
No,
yeah.
no, no.
We're
But,
not-
money,
be
but
great.
money will be coming.
Right. Yes. Thank
Check's
God.
not going to be available.
I think it's our governmental institutions finally recognizing you really have to start
Yeah.
building these projects out.
Oh, yeah.
Friend of mine who former CEO of PEMC just had a workshop, 4-hour workshop for utility companies, how to submit applications for those grants.
There you go.
Super.
Hey.
Yeah.
And all around the, I guess it's just maybe a region here.
But
So
certainly,
the
if, you know,
utility companies,
if you look at the climate committee from the ERC perspective, it's another one where I think education is going to be critical. You have to
Yes.
start teaching people in town, here's what's coming.
Oh.
Here's what you can do, whether it's, rain gardens to help manage some of that stormwater runoff and keeping pollution out of our waterways. But be prepared. We're going to see all this extra flooding that we were just talking about. And we're going to have to deal with these things and be prepared for them.
Well, the good
And,
news,
and it's not 20 years away on a lot of this.
the good news is that finally, I think the public has realized that this climate change thing is not some kind of hoax or fake news or something. When they see the fires, flooding,
No,
crazy
but they-
storms.
They
Yeah.
do seem, from everything here from them, it's like John was saying, they think this is far off in the future and they don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
And,
John, did you listen to or attend the last town council meeting?
Yes.
All right, so you're aware of your new role as town representative?
Yes, and so are the committee.
John?
I have, that you brought it up, I've talked to Debbie Smith, the mayor at Ocean Isle Beach. She's been a member of the advisory council since 2014. And she informed me that basically the advisory council meets around the quarterly meetings of the CRC, Coastal Resources Commission. And she thought that my background and experience would be very useful on the council, but she doesn't make those decisions. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know how quickly they might rule on all the nominations they have. The next,
What was the name of the council?
the Coastal Resources Committee,
Okay.
and I have been nominated by the town council to be on the Coastal Resources Advisory Council.
Okay.
The next CRC meeting is in September, and it'll probably be in Wilmington. It's a public meeting, so anyone can go, appointed or not. So I have that on my calendar to see what's going on.
They do meet up and down the coast, so they may wind up meeting in Manio next time after this one. So
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, usually they're up around the Outer Banks, but
Yeah.
Debbie said that they had contacted her about possibly having a meeting in Ocean
yeah,
in November.
yeah, cool.
So that would be great. So, but I have it on the agenda to talk about later. But climate is a very, very broad subject, and a climate action plan for the town of Sunset Beach would include all the things that we're doing. It would include recycling. It would include green space development. It would include stormwater. It would include resiliency, and all of these things. In my vision, it's our job to pull all these things together from a climate perspective and advise the town on what we need to be doing. And I know the planning board does that by nature. And I know the town councilmen think about it, but so when I say we're going to have a climate subcommittee, I'm not exactly sure what the focus of that will be, but I think green is part of climate as much as recycling is part of climate, and we have to approach each one of these from a climate perspective. Steve Levine, which subcommittees would be priority for you? And let's look at all four of them, not just the three topical ones.
I mean, I like the climate, just because I'm interested in that. I said green. I mean, I'm flexible outside of that. I mean, it's
Well, I think your interest in energy level for the event subcommittee would be good too.
yeah.
And Rich, where are you at now?
I'll say I'm open. What's that? However, yeah, my priority would be the climate. Number 2 would be green, and finally the events. And if there's only one, it would be climate.
Okay. We can't all be on the climate.
The pay must be good.
I mean,
huh?
we are all.
We're all
I'm
covered,
really
right?
glad we're all interested in the climate.
Green would be fine for me.
And I think we need to come up with a better title for climate because it's too broad. But
What's a good synonym for climate?
Life.
Weather. No, I don't know.
No, it's more than weather.
well, we have the resilience program for the town and the community action team. is formed, and the ERC was made a member of the Community Action Team. So in essence, we are all part of the resilience program.
Did you call it resilient community instead of climate?
I'm not sure. I don't know that we have to figure that out today. But,
And do you have to figure out all the members? Maybe we can kind of go away and think about what our parts would be in this and get back in touch with
Yeah,
you. Or
let the subcommittee come up with something. They might have a.
okay, we've got the 4 subcommittees. Let's table the assignment to subcommittees to next month.
in the short term, could we continue to work on Sunset at Sunset?
Yes, we have to do that.
Because that's got to go
We
forward.
have to do that, and we'll talk about that next.
John, I don't think you make a motion as chair, but I'll make that motion for you.
All right. And your motion is to
And
table,
defer further discussion on these committee assignments to the next regular meeting.
okay,
I would change it from discussion to
Or discussion,
The
to
finalization.
actually, yes,
Committee
finalize
assignments.
this.
but just.
We're right around the
We'll
corner.
table with deferred discussion and further action on the subcommittees for the next regular meeting.
Action.
Okay.
we have a motion to table the discussion to next meeting. Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. This is not as simple a change as I
Nothing
expected it.
simple, nothing simple.
The good news is lots of people are interested in
Yeah,
lots of the
it's-
things that
it's a
the
good problem to
committee's
have.
doing. Yeah.
Yes, it's the perfect problem. All right.
I think that's why we're all here. Right?
Next business item is Sunset at Sunset. I will say this, that at the end of last meeting, I think there was a lot of disappointment in the committee when we were told we would not have a booth for our own use.
Really?
And I got contacted by Lisa, and she asked me to come talk to her because she got wind of our disappointment, and it was a misunderstanding. She asked us what we talked about Sunset at Sunset, how big it was going to be, and what the town was going to be doing, and how we could participate with the town. And she's agreed that we would have a table for our own use.
And that's the first Saturday in
We'll
October.
we'll share the tent space with them, but
We'll
we'll have
share
our
the
own.
tent space with
That
them,
would be so much better. To
and we'll have
that
our own
space.
table,
What is the date of that again?
October 1st.
Okay.
First Saturday in October, right, okay.
And the hours are 8 to 5.
10 to 5 or something like that.
Boom.
Then we talked about a lot of things. One thing that came up was reusable bags. And, we have some reusable bags left over from Earth Day, and we will bring those with us. But Lisa told me the town was making reusable bags as a promotional item. It would be a bag with the logo of the town on the front. And she said, if you want to put something on the back of the bag, that would be fine. So I thought about it. I talked to Rich. Candace was out of town. And rather than trying to promote the ERC, I thought it would be good to put something on the bag that promotes what the town is doing in environmental area. The town council passed a resolution declaring that the theme of the town for this year was to invest in our environment. So it came up with a list of ways the town was investing in our environment. That's
Which one?
the short version. Pete, if you want a copy of this. No, they're a little different. I'll explain that.
Yeah.
the short version.
Okay.
Lisa agreed to have this printed on the back of the reusable bags. And
And that's approved already, and she has the information. And
she has
She
it.
put it in
She's gone
order?
out for bids. She's going to get a lot of bags
good.
made, probably enough for Sunset at Sunset and Earth Day Arbor Day next year.
Will this be printed on all the bags?
Yes.
Or just the ones that they're giving to us? It'll be on everything.
It'll be
The
on all
Sunset,
the.
the town will be on the front, and this will be on the back of all.
Yes.
Great.
At the risk of
That's
being
good.
picky and in the interest of full disclosure, my ex-wife was a journalist, so I can't help myself.
Oh,
I think green space should be 2 words.
I checked it. It can be done both ways.
Okay.
but I do look at it. Looking at it quickly, it does look like green peas.
But-
That's why.
What's
That
that?
one word.
All right. Anyway,
Whatever. Okay.
the second part of this is the next sheet of paper with questions at the bottom. And this is for us to talk about and decide what we want to do with it. We had talked about a banner that we would hang in the tent that would have ERC on it, but rather than focus attention on the ERC, again, we're here to promote the town of Sunset Beach. So I would like us to consider a banner that looks something like this. I've got no vested. I don't mind changing this anyway. That's
Right of authorship.
that we all. There's no pride of authorship here, but again, investing in the environment is the theme for the year, and there's a lot of work being done in all of these areas. Green space. Actually, that word was given to me by my daughter, who's a PhD in environmental social work at VCU. So
Put her on the board.
VCU.
So I do have a question at the very beginning. The investing in the environment, that's a 2022 Earth Day logo.
yes,
And the town is going to keep that instead of changing every year.
I don't know that.
Okay. Because this will be on bags for the next couple of years anyway.
But we're always going to be investing in the environment.
Right. I agree.
So that's universal and that's forevermore.
I think
Yeah,
that's,
if you have to have a slogan on there, that's a good one. And then the next time they reprint bags, if they have a different slogan that fits what we do, then
maybe update that. Good
I
idea.
think if you're doing a banner, I would, that we're going to use it at our displays, I would just move Environmental Resource Committee as a separate item at the top, because it's going to be the banner where we are. It's not going to be on the bag, which has to go for all the town functions, but a banner that we're going to use should say Environmental Resource Committee so people know who we are. And I would just put that underneath, we're investing in our environment.
Or would you put it under Town of Sunset Beach Environmental Resource Committee, investing in the environment? Right.
See?
However you do it, I just think it should be somewhere at the top. So when people come to our table, it's clear that this is the Environmental Resource Committee.
I printed up bags for Sunset Vision for Earth Day Arbor Day, and I found that all the bag manufacturers had a limit on the number of
Characters.
you could have on the bag. I would suspect they're not going to print all of this. If you have a Sunset Beach town logo on the side, which means they have a Sunset Beach on the other.
Good point. This is a lot of.
Well, I think for the bag, I think this is okay to have this on the back. But John's also going to have them print a banner that we can use at our events. That will be. But you're saying
Well-
Mm,
even this amount you think would be difficult to
Too
put on the
much.
bag?
Well, my question is, how are they going to know who an ERC member is?
It's on the website.
What a big.
Well, we'll be at the table.
Well-
That's why I think somewhere
Okay.
it would be good to have Environmental Resource Committee
On our
at the
name
top
tag or
when it's
something.
our banner.
Get T-shirts.
Well,
I did get
Okay.
a reduce, reuse, recycle T-shirt for
Did
the
you?
event. I did. I
Good for
found
you.
one.
Get me one.
I
The,
don't think they had it in your size. I'm sorry.
the whole purpose of Sunset at Sunset and the tent is to promote the town of Sunset Beach.
Right, but
And-
we're going to be standing there and you're saying, ask it, talk with an ERC member. It'd be nice if they knew, well, this is the ERC.
Right, well, I thought that would be understood.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
No.
doing this on a banner, you're still leaving all of that in there. It's just saying, since we're the Environmental Resource Committee, whichever of us are at the event,
So I'm not sure how to do that differently.
I would just take it off as that bottom bullet and make it a standalone line underneath we're investing in our environment.
I agree with that.
We could say town of
don't
Sunset
agree with
Beach, investing in our environment, talk with the ERC or talk with the Environmental Resource Committee and then list the
I think
bullets
it's fine the
below
way it
it.
is. It's like, what are we thinking?
I have a different view on this. I think that the town is investing in the environment, and the ERC is part of that investment. So
Yeah.
I think actually it's fine the way it is, and I'm hoping that ERC members will be identified at the table with some kind of a name tag that it says Environmental Resource Committee.
Right.
So it'll have your name in that, you know. So hopefully people will see that we're there and just ask us questions, because it's going to be our table and this is where that banner would be, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I mean, I think this just states what we're investing in: stormwater improvements, green peace, coastal resilience,
I want a
recycling, and
shirt like
environment.
firefighters.
ERC.
Sure, like that. Pick ERC up.
That's just
No, I mean,
That's the way
that's
I
the
would
way I
do
read it. These are the things we're doing in the town to invest in the environment. These are the six things.
I know we want to be,
5 things.
we want more understanding in the town of who the ERC is and what we do. But, and Chad and I talked a little bit about this, we really need to keep the focus on the town.
Right.
And not promote the ERC as much. We'll be there to talk about these things. And the one thing that we need to come up with in the next month is talking points for each one of these items. So when people come up and want to talk about these things, we're prepared to speak to them about what's going on in these areas.
Well, if the point is to make it clear that it's Sunset Beach, then somewhere on the banner, it should say something about Sunset Beach. Because when you're at Sunset, it's maybe
Well,
not as critical for Earth Day, Arbor Day, but at Sunset, there are a lot of different organizations there.
Well, it starts out the town of Sunset Beach. That's the town.
That it'll say that on the banner?
Yes.
Did you want to?
Oh, I'm not seeing that on the.
Oh,
You have another paper there, right
I
next
don't.
on your by your left hand.
The only other thing I got is this.
No, by your left,
Oh, this one.
right
Okay.
there. That's what it'll look like.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Would that be all right with you?
I would still sort it out a little differently, but if everybody's happy with this, it's just a banner.
And this is not a final banner, $300, $400 banner this year, is it?
This is, yes.
Oh,
this would
okay.
be-
So this is our banner. This is our permanent banner.
Well, this is our banner for Sunset at Sunset.
Well, and wouldn't it go to Earth Day, Arbor Day, wherever else we're
If we
Setting up.
choose to do that. I mean, we're not limited to this banner for both events.
Okay.
But the banner is going to have like a Sunset Beach logo. So on one, you said the bag would have a Sunset logo on one
We'll
side.
have to
and
talk
Yeah, the bag will.
to Chad and Lisa about that, but I imagine it'll have a logo on it, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they will.
And then on the other side of the bag, it'll have these.
Well, the bag has a shorter list. So
This is
this will
this is
be on a
banner.
banner like 2, 3 by 4 feet
Oh, okay, gotcha.
hanging
Okay.
that draws people
I'm just
into-
glad we have a banner because last time we didn't have a banner, right? So,
Right. So, is there any more discussion on this? Do we have a motion to give this to Chad to order a sign for the,
As it's written,
yes,
no changes. Okay.
We move to accept the recommendation for the banner.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. The other part of this that you have a copy of is a budget estimate that the subcommittee worked up with. I took this from the Earth Day, Arbor Day budget and added to it after my discussion with Lisa. And I'm not exactly sure how this has to be accounted for, but Chad did not put this onto the agenda for the last council meeting and Lisa said that wasn't necessary because the funds for Sunset at Sunset were promotional funds. They didn't go against the town budget. So it didn't have to have approval for spending. So the money that will go into the reusable bags and the printed information, that'll all come out of funds available to the staff to spend.
And that's only for Sunset at Sunset, or is that for both?
That's only for that.
Okay.
So the rest of these items, we have to get approval from the council before we do anything for Earth Day, Arbor Day next year. But we don't have to have any approved funding from council for what we'll spend money on Sunset at Sunset.
Good. Yeah. Just right around the corner.
For the other members of the committee, the subcommittee had talked about what our focus needed to be for Sunset at Sunset. And we all agreed that we really should focus on education, on being able to talk to the community about the investments that the town is making in the environment. And that's what we have to come up with for our September meeting, so we're ready to go in October.
And we have a list of items that the town's done, like the application for the RCCP and the grant approval. Those are the kind of things we're promoting.
We need to be able, I think, to talk about the stormwater program the town has, the 10-year program, the accomplishments that have been done. That's all included in the grant applications that you received for the RCCP. We need to talk about.
So will the town will be there also. So will Matt.
Last year,
Matt doesn't.
last year,
Okay.
Dustin was there.
Dustin is there. Dustin, as the public works manager, can speak to all these things.
So we have some good backup if it gets really technical.
Yes. And I think we need to have a general knowledge of these town programs. If somebody has a specific problem or an issue or complaint or question, Dustin will be there and he would be the
And Lisa was
appropriate
there
one.
too.
And they would be the appropriate one to get involved in that conversation. But I think for most people, we can give them educational information that would be useful to them. Green space improvements. There's a lot that's going on at the town park, and there's a lot going on to build a new park at the Majestic Oaks location. And
It's also a good chance to get input from the community about things they would like to see. Like Pete said, some of the important things are getting ideas, and People felt pretty free to tell us what they thought we should be doing for recycling.
Coastal resilience, we can update people on, we finished phase 1 and 2 and we're into phase 3. We've been awarded a grant. There's work being done. There's a whole list of other projects that are being looked at and prioritized, and we're looking for grant money to do them, like, as Pete mentioned, the SAFL baffles on the island, and then the recycling promotion. The town will be coming out shortly with a opportunity for people to sign up for recycling for next year, for curbside recycling. There's going to be a big increase in cost because that's what the program has experienced, and it should be no surprise to people. Everything is more expensive, particularly fuel for the trucks that run around and do all the recycling.
The pamphlet that the recycling subcommittee made last year, that we'll have those on hand.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I've given Chad the correct QR code for that. Okay. So he will make up new pass outs.
Okay. So
We'll have that.
So the others we would need, you're talking about everything you listed, that you mentioned, printed talking points for everyone who's working at the time.
Or maybe just a background sheet that we can hand out to whoever's going to.
If we,
Be there
So
presenting.
that's not necessarily something we hand out to someone, but it's something we can.
Well, I think for us, because we want to be educated in some of these areas we don't all know everything about. So as to John's point, to have our talking points, if somebody asks, we can answer. And then the other, I think, is we continue to work on what we are going to present at Sunset will be what materials do we need to have there for education for people. If it's a map of the flood zone, hey, this is where you're going to be in 5 years. This is why this is important. Here's where you are already. It's changing faster than we thought. Because I know it was a shock for me when I went to I think it was the RCCP meeting where you guys had the maps up there of really, I think it would be great to bring some of those materials. People will wake up to climate pretty quick when they actually see, oh my gosh, that's where my house sits.
Are you in a flood zone where you are?
Yeah.
Are you in a V zone?
My,
A B zone? No, probably not.
I don't know.
Everybody's in a flood zone. It's just a question of which one.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. We're not. We live out Windfall.
No,
I'm not. I'm not in the first level. I'm in the second level.
Well,
but I'm not
X is
very
probably
far up.
X, which you don't recommend flood insurance.
I'm
That's a good idea, Candace.
AD, AE. I'm in AE.
Well, the thing to do would be instead of having a map, I mean, you could have a map, but there's a GIS system that's free to use in the county, and you can click on it and see if you were in what flood zone.
But for a
Well, we can tell people that, but to have a point there where people can look at it and maybe then they'll start to have some questions like, hey, what does that mean? I'm over here.
So they're more likely to go to a website to find
Yeah.
out.
we can
It's just our
We can
chance to
do
give
that.
people.
but in the green space area, not only do we have the parks, but we have things like rain gardens, and we have the brochures from the cooperative extension about rain gardens. We have a lot of different.
Some of the coastal landscaping
We have a
materials
lot
that are
of
out there.
brochures about that.
Plantings.
So we have those on hand,
Native
or do we need to ask?
And
We
we'll
have a
to-
bunch of them left over from Earth Day, Arbor
Yeah.
Day.
We'll have to see what's
how
there.
many we have and if we need to order more.
And the master gardeners will be there also, I'm sure, with some of the same.
They like to go to Sunset at sunset, but I'm not, it's just hard to know this year because we're in such a different space. Will there be room for all of these?
Right. So many vendors, right?
But I think the subcommittee needs another meeting shortly to
Yeah,
talk
very
about
shortly.
this.
Mhm.
That's this year's Sunset of Sunset Subcommittee. Next year. But the talking points, if we would need the recycling subcommittee to do you have the brochure.
We already had the brochure and they
Right,
did that
So
last.
the Green Committee or the Climate Committee, even the events committee, if they want to promote the events coming up, Earth Day and Arbor Day next year. But each of those subcommittees would need maybe not in depth, but not superficial either, talking points to have on hand.
Right,
By
but we
October- by
won't, we
October 1st.
really won't have time for that to be done. We will have to do it.
Our subcommittee.
Our subcommittee will have to
Okay.
outline these things and
Okay.
figure out how to make it happen.
I just need to see ownership. Someone has ownership.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Who's doing what next? So I think if we meet, we can
Okay,
can-
so
get our ducks in a row.
any other thoughts on Sunset at Sunset? Okay, next item on the agenda is Chad's Earth Day Arbor Day 2023. Form a 3-member event subcommittee, so we'll do that next month. And then we have the RCCP Phase 3 update, which Chad was going to give us. Pete, you add to it if you know more, but we've been given the grant. There was a period of time that was expected to be at least a month to get into a signed contract with the DCM on the project, and then there was a kickoff to be done with the engineering firm to start that forward. Lisa said that she would have a kickoff meeting. We haven't heard any more about that. So Chad was going to see where that stood. So we'll have to follow up on that. And then as Pete mentioned, there still is the project for the Southwell baffles, and we need to see if we can find sources of grant money for that. And I think Elliot Swain is a good one to talk to about that. Because that's in his wheelhouse. Now, the programs he has provide government funding for 3/4 of the expense on doing projects like that. Then we need to, if that was the only source we could find, then the town would have to agree to spend the additional money. But that's one possibility. Okay, any other discussion on or questions about Phase 3? The next category of business is new business. The climate action plan. Each of you in your packet received a copy of the document that I shared with Chad. It's a document written by a organization in New York State called the Climate Smart Communities. It's a program that they've instituted across New York State, and they've created a climate action planning guide. This is for big cities and big government. This is not for small government, small towns. But I think they had some excellent ideas in here that made me realize that climate action planning was more than resilience, that it involved recycling, that it involved green space, that it involved all the things that we're interested in and that we want to see done in Sunset Beach. So I'd like to know if anybody has any thoughts or comments about this. And
I'll keep saying the same thing. The cheapest, most effective, most efficient way to combat global climate change are planting trees.
Hey, would you like a copy?
And Houston's done their tree planting. Chicago's done rooftop tree plantings. Major cities have done. We don't have to be a major city, right, to
Right.
put in more trees to replace the trees we've lost. That's again, it seems so basic and so easy. And if we don't have enough town space, town green space, if we can go to Dollar General or any of these other local businesses in our downtown area, if we could either, if we could present the council that we would 50-50, we would provide the information, we would provide the resources, but they would provide the cash for the trees or the shrubs, whatever. So that's, again, I may be preaching, but that is the easiest way to combat stormwater runoff, combat the heat.
It seems, Rich, the need is bigger though in the residential areas, because where you look at where we're losing tree canopy, it's all these big developments.
Right.
I mean, go out right now in any of these areas and they've clear cut.
Yeah.
And so it whether we want to consider it part of our educational goals or to partner with somebody like that, Cape Fear Alliance for Trees or a similar organization, to somehow reach out to our neighbors to say, this is the most important thing we can do.
If there's an opportunity for information, education,
Yeah.
and free resources.
Earth Day, Arbor Day, it was a great place to start that last year and to continue, but there's a limit to the public space that's available to plant.
But commercial space, businesses, Lowe's or whatever, I'm not sure, I haven't checked it. Even a fire department, right?
Well, they're public space, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure they are, right, except beside there, right, the DOT.
Right.
But if there's not enough green space,
I think there's a ton of green
Available.
space, but we need to broaden our focus and look at these residential areas.
Well,
but
the other,
it came up a few months ago, 6
Yeah.
months ago or so, because it came up,
Yeah.
the discussion of clear cutting
Mhm.
was that the reason they have to clear cut, especially on the island, is the house that's
right,
right on the lot. There's no space around there.
Well,
And
and,
I did
and,
talk
and
with-
that's the island where there's no big developments. They clear cut everywhere else because they're going to be putting in roads and sewer systems. And
I did talk with the developer during the parks, when we signed up on the board. He said well, true or not, this is what he said, was developers would prefer to leave the large trees because it makes the property that much more attractive, that much more valuable
Right.
to them, but still they clear cut everything anyway.
well, another
And
kind
that
of a
would show up.
sideline is, look how much unnecessary pavement there is in parking lots. You know, that's,
And
uh,
abandoned parking lots too.
heat, which is released in the air. There's virtually no shade in most Food Lion or the place across the street there, the old Food Lion.
Mhm.
It's really,
Well,
Anyway,
yeah, this
that's super.
this
very easy.
subject gets you into land use discussions, which involves the planning board long-term. And so it's bigger than,
oh yeah.
But it's a proposal we can make to council.
yes. And if we think about a climate action plan and recommending how the town would enter into a climate action plan, we would have to say that, you know, we would expect the planning board to have a role in this, and we would probably have to have some discussion with the planning board before that to see how, or Chad can counsel us on that, how that might work together. But I think this ties together a lot of
Oh,
things.
yeah.
And originally, I thought resilience was was an action plan, and it is, but it's not a full climate action plan. So,
It's one page, right, or
So-
pages in there.
So the objective for preparing a climate action plan is to reduce greenhouse gases. I mean, that's ostensibly the goal of the plan, is to reduce those gases. That's so all these actions that people would take under a plan have that in mind. So anything that we did in the town could fall under that plan if it was like installing vehicle recharge stations and those sorts of things. But so by you presenting this to us, are you suggesting maybe that we do need to think about a climate action plan that we put all this, what we do under a plan? Maybe sort of put some organization to it.
Yes. But I think we need to look at it from a standpoint about what are the things that we can do something about,
Right.
and how do we, what can we recommend to the town to be done? And if it involves getting others involved, who do we have to get involved? And I think this program talks about reducing greenhouse gases, but for Sunset Beach, resilience is part of our climate action plan. It's identifying risks and vulnerabilities and making preparations to recover when the inevitable occurs. So it's more than greenhouse gases.
Right. I mean, that's the first part is reducing the greenhouse gases, and the second part of it is they're already released and things are happening, and we have to plan for that.
Right.
But
I'm not sure. I don't really have this all figured out yet.
Yeah, my opinion is I'd have to read this whole thing and study it and see how it relates.
well, you can go
Yeah.
online and get better copies.
But I think that we can suggest things. We have little impact as far as like getting people to actually do something. So like, for example, tore down all the trees, like flattened huge areas. And I mean, my question is like, what are we going to do to mitigate that? I mean, if I look at what's relevant, I think we should just focus on what we have control over, and we can make recommendations. And then other things we obviously can't control, like greenhouse gas. I mean, if people decide to put in electric vehicles, reduce all that, that's great. But I think, like Rich said, planting trees, I think that's a great idea. The neighborhoods, when they tear down all the trees, what's our plan to replenish?
Yeah. How do
Vegetation.
we deal with that? So
I see a huge growth here going on, and I don't really see much going on to mitigate the damage that's being done to the environment. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I see we're gonna 3 to 5 years from now, we're gonna have 1 trillion cars. There'll be houses everywhere.
But the case may be that what we see is not what's happening, because if planning board is stifled, town council stifled, the county stifled, the state stifled,
Right.
all we can do is put our
yeah,
pieces
I mean,
We
together
can make
here.
suggestions, recommendations.
there's a lot of things going on, Steve, that we don't know about, and they're publicly available if you want to spend 150% of your time researching the Department of Transportation and the county planning board and the town planning board and the state. There's so much going on in all these areas.
Like, I think I hear you both saying, though, that we should be prioritizing and focusing on what we can actually impact.
Yes, and I want us to realize that climate is not just resiliency. That everything that we're doing is part of that's going to affect the climate, and we should be thinking about it in terms of the climate impact and the so yes, please read this, think about it. If you have good ideas or bad ideas you want to talk about, call me. Or
So your point wasn't that we should think about taking a step back and developing an overall plan.
not yet. I don't know how to do that
We appointed that to
effectively.
you to do. Guys, I'm gonna have to leave. I got a meeting at 12. I apologize. I've got to head out.
Well, I think that's the last item on the agenda.
Okay.
Are there any other things anyone has?
No.
If not, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn today's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.